Well, I'd like to use this simple little design here to illustrate the various methods that you can use to put plant symbols into your landscape plans. The one you see here on the left demonstrates the use of symbols using the standard method. You simply go to Library, Plants, and go to Standard. Once you're in there, you can scroll through this list, just select one in the column on the left and just scroll down through, and you'll see a variety of filled symbols, ones that are relatively open, like that one, and we can just say open, and then you get an opportunity to place it in the design as we've done here. The symbols can be scaled once they're in by selecting them and right clicking and picking scale and then dynamically dragging them like so, but they are on average, if you are working in the imperial system, they'll be about 3 feet in diameter and close to 1,000 units or 1,000 millimeters in the metric environment. So I can choose heavily filled symbols or colorful symbols or really quite elaborate symbols in this way and just place them down. They'll all look somewhat standard size when you put them in, but then you can scale them. So right click, scale, click in the middle, go to the outside and just do that. I'm also in the habit of rotating the symbols just a little bit. You can pick a whole group of them like this and then rotating them. That gives a little more variation in your symbols, looks a little more naturalistic. You can also bring symbols above and below any of the others. This symbol might indicate a tall tree, and what I've done is go to Tools, Draw Order, and I've brought it to the front, so it's pretty obvious that this is a large tree. This is a relatively heavy canopy above. So that's the quick and easy way, if you like, to place plant symbols. Any symbol you get from that standard group does have the advantage of you can go to Layers here and you can turn on a construction layer and off a symbol layer, and with one click all the symbols disappear and you are left with a marker at indicating the position of the species, and that can be very useful for your construction team, because if you've tagged all these in our plant database file, you can put a little initial little code in the center of each of these, and that's the sort of plan that a construction team will like to work with. So it's very quick and very easy. So we put on the symbol layer again. So in this case all the fancy material, if you like, is on a layer PLENT symbol. Now so that's the standard method, if you like. Let's come across and we'll work on the same base little sketch plan, but you can also avoid the need to scale every one of these symbols, if you like, and you can also put symbols in that can reflect an upper canopy. Let's imagine I wanted to indicate the upper canopy here. So what I've done there is I've gone to Library, Plants, and Sized. So I can pick tall trees, and here are lots of symbols for tall trees. And notice that the symbol is very pale, suitable for a tall tree with an upper canopy. You may well want to see clearly your design underneath. So these symbols here are symbols from a group called mini shrubs and small shrubs and so on. They can be seen very easily looking down through this upper and lower canopy. So here's a tall tree symbol, here is a small tree symbol, and you can change the heaviness, the the outline of those simply by changing the layer. So if we go to Tall Tree, it's currently layer 253, so let's make it a bit darker, and you'll see the result when we come in. Now that outline is darker, so you can play with the darkness or colour, if you like, of those symbols. So the big advantage is, as you drag them in, this one comes in as a fairly large canopy, a large shrub. They all come from that sized group. So if I bring in large shrubs, it'll automatically come down at a more appropriate diameter. You don't have to do anywhere near the amount of scaling. So if we pick this symbol here, its scale on the left is a scale of 1. This one here is a scale of 1. This one is also a scale of 1, and this is a little mini shrub, so it comes in at a smaller canopy diameter. So this method is in response to students who just want to pop things down, not worry too much about scaling, but get a reasonable looking design in this way. If we move over to the right again, and there's a third group, a third system, where you can plant species in by importing a group, almost like a palette of symbols. So we can go library and plants, and we can have a name group if you want to put in particular named species. But let's have a look at this group option, and that gives you here, for example, I've chosen a group of grasses, ground covers, heritage plants, light touch, miscellaneous, Nordic group, and open, a set of symbols that are all fairly open. So it's just a different and quick way to work. So if you were working on a concept for a particular plan, you might want a concept to look sort of sketchy. So you would drag in, this is a single symbol if you like, but it's a compound one, and you would drag it in as a group and then explode it. Once we explode it, break it up, we can use the parts within it. The same would apply with heritage. Here's a group of heritage symbols, and you'd break those up and then drag them in. And you can get individual symbols here and just click and drag them here into your design, or for even quicker work, grab this one in and pop it here and scale it maybe a little bit. Oops, I picked rotate, so we'll scale here to here and make it a little bigger, and let's bring in another group here and another one there. Can you see I'm building this design up? Now remember, this is only this is a concept plan perhaps for a client, but can you see that the symbols all got some sort of similarity to them, and a bit more coherent, and a very quick and easy way to build up a design. So I'm doing that sort of thing here. The last thing that I would like to mention is that you can apply transparency to symbols if, for the sake of argument, you find that a symbol's not showing quite the way you want. Here's an example of a symbol that's come from that particular standard group. Let's say I wanted to fill it a little, but I still wanted to see through the canopy. So we can, in fact, what I'll do is move it over here. So it's a simple symbol. It's it's in fact a named one. It's an Acer. So what you might wish to do is to give more definition to it. And one of our students has taken the technique of just putting a circle in the center here, and we'll give it a color. If it's an Acer, you'd want to pick some sort of true color. maybe a ready colour. I won't fiddle too much, and you would then apply a fill to it, and that looks really heavy, doesn't it? But what we could do is change the transparency, and we could say give it a transparency of 50 units, and select all. Now that looks a little too brown for my liking, but to demonstrate the point, we now have a circle and the original one, and you could move both now back into position, and that adds a little more drama to the overall scheme. So it's by no means all, but we've looked here at quite a number of different ways of bringing symbols in. If you do use transparency in your design, you cannot print in the usual way to go File and Print. You have to use our file Save as a PDF, and that has some limitations in that the resolution is sometimes a little difficult to get an acceptable resolution, whereas with a print to a PDF writer will give you very high resolution, but we've not been able to find a PDF writer yet that will print transparency. So that's a brief overview of some of the symbols and symbol sets that are in this group. The named group, of course, has each individual symbol has got its own particular name, and there's a colourful one, an aster, so you can put in individual name species. That sometimes helps you when you're doing detailed design work. If we look at the compound group, they are a whole series of symbols that try and tie the design together, and they're all got a sort of a bluey grey outline. So I hope you can see what we're trying to achieve. We want to give you as much flexibility as we can. There's also a My Symbols group where you put symbols that you might have made that you want to use again and again. Let's just imagine that we quite liked this Acer symbol, so that we could copy it across over here, leave that one on the right intact, pick this one up, and create a block and call it Special Acer, and make a pick point in the middle of it, and now it becomes, whoops, that's not going to, I've used the wrong character in defining the name for that one, so that's not going to work for me as a demonstration. But you can make a block of it and then pop it into the library and plants and My Symbols folder, and then you'll be able to use it in subsequent design work without having to carry it across. So I hope I've covered to a degree all the different ways, and almost every user of gCADPlus will do things differently.